welcome to the Katie Truther podcast. I'm your host, Katie Truther. It's such a pleasure to have you here today, and I am joined by an incredible guest. Her name is Cynthia Elliott. She is a 3-time book author, and her newest book, A New American Dream, has just been released. She's hot off the press, and I'm just going to throw it out there and say maybe I'm the first interview after this new book release. So welcome to the show, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm good, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited about this because we've gotten to know each other through other podcasts. And yes, the book dropped this morning, so it is the first podcast I've done since it came out. I did do another one 2 days ago. So
Very exciting. So you were just telling me you had it on pre-order and now it's released. And let's talk about this number one status you have, Cynthia.
Yes. So I became an author a couple of years ago. It was something I had dreamed about for a really long time. I put out my first book during the pandemic. I just wanted people to know about spiritual practices, and that was Unleash the Empress. And I was just happy to get it out because everything was closed at the time. I wanted other people to know that you could get healthy and in mind, body, and soul harmony. I'm a conscious living author, and so most of my books relate to the human experience. About 6 months ago, I came out with my second book, which is called Memory Mansion, and it shares my journey from Tennessee Catholic orphanage to New York City PR diva to depression to learning to love myself. And that was my first number one hit. And I was really excited and surprised by that because you don't know what people are going to think about your story. And then I had this driving inspiration to share a concern about the American dream and the state of the country. And I just put together a new American dream. And I'm excited to say that it hit number one in new releases in all of its categories. And then it was released this morning and hit number one again. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And how exciting to just get that number one status. I mean, I could only imagine, right? And so I'm really excited to kind of dive into this book, A New American Dream. So let's talk a little bit more about the inspiration for this book, because you said you didn't plan on writing a third book. So how did this all transpire?
Yeah, I've spent 20 something years working in marketing and PR. I'm a patriot. I love this country, and I've been really concerned about the country for a while. 2 years ago in Austin, I did a video where I was talking about the death of the American dream. And about 6 months ago, I started to really get concerned about the direction of the country. And I was trying to figure out, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I'm also an AI entrepreneur. I have a foundation called SoulTech AI Foundation that teaches AI skills to underserved communities so that they can also do well in this incredible fourth industrial revolution. And it was the combination of already being an author, a conscious living expert, and then being an AI entrepreneur that I was like, wait a minute, let me think about this for a second. We've lost since World War II. We came back, we were heroes. It was amazing. The country, just really glowed. Our middle class exploded in beautiful ways, and then it's just gone downhill from there because of corporate greed and corruption, as I think a lot of people are starting to really see in recent years. And it's caused the death of the American dream and the death of the ladder that our younger generations had to climb. And it's like, how does the country who shipped away its jobs, who gave away its manufacturing, who imploded entire industries, who allowed big corporations to use globalization to decimate the American economy and our prospects and make us dependent on just a couple of foreign countries just to function, that I hit upon the realization that the fourth industrial revolution, which is the age of AI, could actually be used instead of standing by and watching it like we've done with every other industrial revolution in this country. We're all like, oh, wow, look at all the cool new toys. We haven't really strategically said, wait a second, we actually have this opportunity right now to utilize this industrial revolution to revitalize the country. That I hit upon the realization that if I could get the conversation started, we could begin to strategically use the massive change that's going to happen in every industry, in every area of our life, to reignite the dream and bring manufacturing and jobs back to the country through robotics and nanotechnology. So that is what the book is about. It's just to really start that conversation.
Quite really impressive, especially with you taking the initiative to make sure that everybody is up to date on AI, because I think we were talking before, and we just like the technology boom that happened previously, about how so many people were left behind, people that were not working in offices that are integrating new technology. And now we find that, like, okay, everybody has a phone. Everybody has the internet, or majority of people, especially here within the United States, which we'll just keep it our nation specifically, right? Sometimes we just can't help the world all at once,
Yeah.
right? So helping these people that might not know or might not be educated in AI, and you just kind of breaking down that barrier, I think is really impressive. And I love thinking of this as the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, we are going to see things changing so rapidly, and we don't want to leave anybody behind. And
Yeah.
so, tell me a little bit more about in your book. Are you basically proposing a plan for how we can move together as a nation?
I'm proposing, I think the most important part of the book is that I'm proposing we not stand by and watch another revolution come through and then allow it to unfold however the most powerful people decide it should unfold, which is what happened the last time we had when, I was working in New York City during the last tech boom, and I tried to voice concern about how large Google was becoming and how dominant and how the data was being utilized by some of the social media apps. And I could not get anyone to listen to me. So this time around, I was like, you know what? I do not want to be that person who says I couldn't get anyone to hear. I am a futurist. I've been predicting, if you will, just based on experience and pattern recognition, the future for a really long time. And my accuracy rating is frightening. And I say that because I've seen the two potential outcomes and what's in between. And I really believe that if we do not utilize the age of AI to bring manufacturing and independence and jobs and pride back to the country, I don't think that America will ever recover the throne that we had for such a long time. And I think that is the purpose of the book, is to just say to people, look, this is, let's face it, let's stop being afraid. Let's stop avoiding the conversation. Let's stop allowing media to dictate, and politicians and people who want to, who care more about fame than they do about helping people, dictate what we actually think and believe about certain situations. Let's not leave it up to a handful of corporations that have basically run most of the jobs out of this country while taking most of our money and not paying their full share of taxes. I don't want to see that happen again. And what I really wanted for people to do was say, hey, wait a minute, that's actually, instead of allowing the change to just happen and let a few people that are greedy make those decisions, or dumb, because I've seen a lot of that in my 30 years of working. Um, uh, let's engineer strategy within that massive change, and let's fix a lot of the problems, because AI's ability to analyze data can help us fix a lot of the biggest issues we have in this country, like politicians getting rich while they're in office, which is just fascinating to me how that happens. And things like that, corruption. There's many ways to fix a lot of our issues. Being able to analyze landlords and how they raise rents, we can see when they're colluding. Like, there's so many ways we can use the technology. And that way, simultaneously, things like nanotechnology and robotics are going to be huge. And I don't want to see China dominate again in another area and us be importing for the rest of it, of time, as we've been doing for years. And in the importing, let's be honest, has become increasingly garbage. I mean, it's almost insulting. It is actually, in fact, it is insulting. I don't personally have major issues with them in terms of the fact that we count on them, but I do have issues with the fact that their product has gotten increasingly crappier, and we've become kind of addicted to it without seeing that we're being sold garbage that has to be replaced every couple of months, which is a great way to keep your economy flourishing. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that definitely sounds like not doing anything about it could potentially be devastating for our nation, right? And I find it interesting that you brought up about basically, okay, I'll just say it, like fast fashion. That's really has an effect globally with how frequently we're having to throw away clothing. There's really nothing long lasting. That's concerning. And then just so many other products. And that's one thing I like to say is, hey, we're voting with our dollars. So in between elections, right, where we're actually going to cast a vote, in the meantime, it's where we put our dollars really says a lot. But I find the options getting smaller and smaller. And so now, let's just turn it back to fashion, because it's something that that
Mhm.
I notice the most, right? Is if I want to, go to a boutique and support them. Well, for one, their prices are typically so much higher for having to have a physical business, bring in the merchandise, pay the employees, pay the insurances, and all of those things. And quite frankly, it's still fast fashion if you start
Mhm.
looking into where these clothes are made. So if we're not manufacturing anything, how can anything change? And
Yeah.
so you pointed that this might actually, your plan might actually help with manufacturing. Can you explain to me, like, what does that look like?
So, just as an example, a few years ago, so I spent quite a long time working in the fashion industry. So I watched the demise of clothing. Just as a quick note, I emptied my closet out after I got healthy and lost a lot of depression weight, and the only clothing that was left in my closet was 15 years or older, which it just was so startling to me in that moment. I was like, "Wow, that speaks volumes." Because it wasn't like I was buying garbage brands, but all of the brands, because most of them are made in Asia, have gotten progressively crappier because it increases the number of times we get more of something, the number of times we have to wash that something, and it just goes into a landfill, and people have become accustomed to this as though it's normal. There is no reason why the United States cannot support and incentivize a system that prioritizes. And we've been talking about this for years. But part of the problem with politicians being, bought off by big company interests is that they won't support a lot of things. But if we really buckle down as a country and say even just saying a certain portion of our goods must be American made, they have to be produced in this country by American companies. And guess what? If we can't find a way to make that happen, then we just won't allow a certain number of things to be imported. Like let's be like aggressive about it. Let's stop sitting around going, gosh, let's be apologetic for wanting to be independent. When is America going to stop apologizing to the world for needing to fill its own cup before it dumps more billions into other countries? We have people starving and homeless and desperate need of jobs, and yet we somehow manage to print more money and send it overseas. And in the fashion industry, so just to backtrack for a second, what woke me up a few years ago to my depression was the fact that I had spent 2 years of my life building a sustainable fashion collection that was made here in America. I designed it. I found a way to produce it. I found a way to design it here. I found a way to do everything I could here in the States. And it sucked my soul for 2 years because it was so difficult to actually make happen, but I was determined to prove to the industry that I had slaved in for a very long time and loved for a very long time that you could make clothing that was beautifully made and would last for a really long time here in America. And right when the clothing had just been cut and was gonna be sewn, I started hearing things from people I knew in Asia, and as a futurist and intuitive, I knew the country was gonna close down, and I could get for 3 months, I could get no one to, believe that what I was saying was true, and I ended up having to spend the next year and a half with my clothing collection in pieces in an LA warehouse for a year and a half after it had been paid for, it had been designed, the fabric had been produced, custom made, it had been dyed, like the full gamut, and I couldn't get it pieced together, and that just sent me into this like, "Oh my god, I can't deal." Like, I had never failed in my career, which was, in retrospect, it was a good thing for me as a person, um, but it did show me a lot of what the issues are here in the country. Look, it's doable. That I've proven. I ended up getting the clothing together, it looked beautiful, and it's one of the few things I can buy or, use that lasts for years and still looks amazing. So I know it is doable. I know it can be done, but I do know that the American government is not doing enough, or the American people are not aware enough to actually force these situations. See, we keep acting like it's going to happen by us wishing and thinking. No, we have to actually make radical changes to our buying habits and stop being sold garbage from foreign countries and going back to the same garbage well, like encouraging each other to understand what investment dressing is, encouraging each other to understand who's producing American goods and really prioritize that instead of, talking about it. Because I see that a lot with politicians. They love to drop that phrase here and there, but they're doing almost nothing to make it happen.
I agree, and I actually commented that on one of President Trump's posts is incentivizing the American people to get busy because right now and for quite some time, I feel like we have had the wind sucked from our sails. A lot of give me, a lot of about self, a lot of meism, and I just wanted to give my myself a gold star on being a little intuitive about the fashion thing of all things. And I'm not even like a clothing hoarder or anything like that. It's just something that I think about. I even noticed a girl in TJ Maxx, right? That's where the fast fashion happens. And she's talking about, oh, I'm checking the labels because I don't want to buy things from, I don't know, let's say Taiwan or
Mhm.
something like that. And I was like, girl, you're shopping at TJ Maxx. Just buy what you want to buy. Like, buy what you want to buy or leave. Like, don't give us a platitude in the middle of you grazing the clothing rack about how you're actually a really great person. And things like that, like you're saying about talking, just feels a little fake to me. It's a facade that we're putting on of oh, screw Amazon, screw Netflix, all of these other things. Meanwhile, people are still using Amazon,
Mhm.
people are still using Netflix, people are still shopping at Walmart, even through the whole trans bathing suit, people are still shopping at Target. It's just, where are we going? And I look at that, and this is the last thing I'll say about that, is that we've had certain people and things changing within industries for women for a long time, and women allowed it to happen. But what happened when Dylan Mulvaney had a Bud Light is Bud Light felt the pain. You know what that says to me as a country is men really need to be involved with things
Oh,
that probably
yes.
they don't want to be involved, but
They don't think it's their
let's get
job.
to it. Yeah, let's get to it, right? And
Yes, I'm
so,
glad you said that. I'm so glad that you said that because I it's a thing, and I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you've got me so
no,
excited that
you're
you brought
good.
this up because it's so powerful. People, we have taught people to expect the victims of a situation to fix it. And because men still run the world, they have got to step up and accept and understand that without their involvement, women will never make 100%. And if they are still okay with that and their silence says that's what that is, and if it's not the truth, then we need you guys to show us it's not true. We need men to step up and help us fix all of the problems, not expect women to fix the fact that we're underpaid because we're not in the positions of power to make that decision in the first place. It's like, wakey, wakey.
Yeah, we the future includes all of us, right? It's
Hmm.
it's men and women, and uh playing their part in their role, but also having each other's back. So women, the feminist movement, to be quite frank, we don't need to, and I say we, I'm part of the feminist movement by any means, like girl power to an extent, right? Is that I don't I still need a man to advocate for me or all women, and women should be doing the same. Women don't need to put men down in order to lift themselves up. And with all the things that have happened, people struggling with their identities and so on and so forth, whether it's where you come from or what shade skin you have or whatever it is, man, there is really a lot of room for us to work together. But in my opinion, it needs to be both, right? We need
Hmm.
men and women working together on this. So, really quickly, take a second, think about the men for a moment, and what do you really want to tell all men right now with and facing the issues that we have?
I think that men need to understand that population decline is in a great deal due to their lack of involvement in dealing with a lot of the issues, the lack of support for daycare, the lack of support for women who are having children or have had children, and that affects them in so many other ways. The fact that women are still underpaid, the fact that they haven't been vocal in supporting a lot of change, and simultaneously with that, and they're just, and I want to be clear, I love men. I think men are amazing, but they are equally victims of the patriarchy. They've bought into a lot of really toxic thinking, and the number one thing that they can do to actually help fix everything is to raise their human consciousness, to learn emotional and mental mastery so that they can show up and be present in the moment and see the problems for what they are and have the um healthy kind of ego that will allow us to actually fix situations. And the lack of emotional and mental maturity and the dependence on a patriarchal way of thinking, which has been taught to most of them, is causing our world to be sick, and all of those things collectively, plus the lack of jobs and opportunity and taking care of people, has led us to a place where population collapse is actually a real potential. And it sounds hyperbolic to say that, but it's not.
Yeah, I agree with that. But on the same sense is, what do we tell women about how to treat our men? So we can tell our men to step up, but if they're also being stepped on at kind of every turn of the way, how do we help women understand that men need to be men?
I think women, there's a great movement, as a conscious living author, I talk about this a lot. There's a great movement within women to really focus on developing and creating an extraordinary life for themselves. So if I had any message for women, it's you focus on building such a beautiful life for yourself, such beautiful dreams for yourself, and whatever that means in the moment, and do not hook your ego, your self-esteem, your future onto whether or not you get married, have children, lived in the 2.3 kids in a house somewhere. No, you need to focus on loving you so much and glowing your life up so much that you become an incredibly productive and aware and conscious member of society, that you can be there for men without the anger that I see so often on social media, especially, like, I can talk about narcissists all day. I know I've been in a long-term relationship with one that was really unhealthy, but all of that negativity isn't fixing issues. Now, great that it helps educate people, but there's this, like, almost like making the living off of male bashing, and same thing with men as well in the content world. But yeah, my message to women would be to focus on building such a gorgeous life for yourself that you do not attach your future to anything other than you developing your dreams and goals, and don't have them be attached to men, and be present for men in their development of their mental and emotional mastery, because you can't do that if you're angry.
Yeah, wow, that's so true. And not attaching yourself. So we said, oh, maybe don't focus on the picket fence and the kids, but also don't focus on the sole independence of your life, and taking on the attitude of, I don't need a man. Right. So
Yeah.
that's a two-way street. For women, you're basically faced with a fork in the road, and we have to kind of carve a path through the middle, things that don't feel like they've been done for quite some time, right? I think that we actually had a bit more balance going back, where men actually fully embraced their role. And this would have been prior to the education system, the education indoctrination system that we faced, and getting women into the workplace. I love that you brought up advocating for childcare. Yeah. Why is that only women advocating for that, so we could go back to work? Like, if it's a two-income household and we need that to function, this is just as much as a man's problem as it is the woman's problem, right?
Yeah. And
Wow.
I think a lot of that, that's
Eye-opening. I
about
love that.
undervaluing and using. So our world was built on using women's labor for free. And a lot of the things, the jobs that are so vitally important to the future of our world, being mother, being teacher, being a nurse, are undervalued and underpaid because they're primarily done by females. And that there's this push pull between women wanting to be independent and wanting to work, while simultaneously being underpaid, while simultaneously being attracted to fields that tend to be feminine, that tend to be dominated by women, but are underpaid and undervalued in our society. It's insanity, and until we get our priorities straight. And I like sports and entertainment as much as the next person, but I'm really glad to see the collapse of a lot of those structures, and the lack of, I mean, they've lost their shimmery glamour, and we needed that, because we have big
Yeah.
problems to fix, and we can't do that if we're spending all our time and money on people because they can throw a ball, or somebody because they can sing through auto tune.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, our world has really changed a lot in a very short amount of time. So that kind of brings us back to what kind of change we're facing. So I want to get into your plan a little bit. Your plan, and as it relates to women and moving forward, using your plan, what and AI, what kind of what's what's next for women, if
Yeah.
they were to follow your plan when it comes to AI and development?
Well, I think that the thing that's so great about the AI we currently have, like that's already being utilized, is that we can use it to create programs that analyze the situation, that can see the truth and what people are being paid, and the inequalities that are there, so that we can actually fix those situations, so that we can actually utilize it to study what is going on and be able to spot the patterns. When people are making the decision about what is true and what is not, we get sound bites, not solutions, and we got a lot of sound bites going on. Their politicians really lean on that to distract us. But when you're dealing with something, as long as we're utilizing AI that has been equitably and fairly trained on data sets that are as pure as we can get them, because there'll always be little issues, we're going to be able to see the truth about situations, and we're going to be able to enforce different ways of behaving, because the truth will be there for people to not be able to avoid. Like, I love to use the example of Katie Porter. So I don't know if you're familiar with Katie Porter, but she's a politician that she brings these posters up and this information up, and she gets somebody like a CEO for, like, Jamie Dimon was really a funny episode to see her do. Episode. I'm acting like it's a TV show, but with her up there, it is kind of like that. But what's so brilliant about her is that she's using fact to call them out in front of everybody. And we can do so much more of that across all of the areas of our world that in which we have issues, and we have them in most areas. And then we can also deal with issues like the fairness, like we're talking about creating finally addressing we can finally address the inequality that happens when the country depends on free labor, not just physical labor, but emotional labor. And until we can take that pressure off of women, they're going to continue to struggle to thrive, and men are going to continue to be stuck in their own ways. I really believe that we have to deal with the fact that our boardrooms and our CEO seats are still probably almost 80 to 90% of those are still taken by men. And until we really force that situation, we're going to live in a world where men are still making most of the decisions. And I think that's what's so great about artificial intelligence. It's going to alleviate a lot of the physical and emotional labor that happens. Or I should say, it's really the physical labor in many ways. I say emotional labor too, because you can use AI to deal with your state of being and help to bring yourself down. But just in terms of lifting things, doing laundry, like just imagine a robot. It comes in, the amount of pressure that's going to take off of relationships and off of the woman, and allow her to focus more on self-development and her joy and her happiness in life. I mean, I think that's brilliant. And we can actually look forward to that happening in the next, like, 5 years. So many things. I mean, I could just go on for days. There's so many things that we can change just in terms of health. Often I can't tell how many times I've been to the doctor or to a hospital over something that was really quite serious, only be dismissed for years. It took me 10 years to find out that I had 11 hernias at one point, because I was repeatedly told that it was an ovarian cyst, which is kind of apparently is the go-to, or it's your hormones or things like that. And with AI enabled healthcare, and much of it in home, instead of a woman having to face some idiotic doctor who's going to insult her or tell her she's hysterical, or it's about her hormones, we can actually use it to better identify what she's dealing with. Majority of studies in healthcare were done on men; they weren't done on women. There's so many areas in which the woman is going to be able to receive support and services that have been sorely lacking for years, and information about her current state, just physical, emotional, and mental, that I think creates an exciting future for us. We just have to get some crap straight first.
Right. So data analysis essentially at the tip of your fingers when you utilize AI. I mean, this sounds like an incredible book. This sounds like an incredible plan and a way to really start to fix what we're up against now, what we've been up against, and goodness only knows what we're going to be up against in the future, right? So I really like the idea of individuals taking a bit of responsibility. We know we won't see everyone do this, right?
Yeah.
There's still going to be people that feel they don't want to use AI, or don't know how to use AI, or reluctant or resilient to learn, what's available to them. But I'm already like envisioning the prompts, right? Using only woman data from right? And then describing the symptoms and all of this, and being able to at least get pointed in the right direction, if not fully understand what could be happening with you, right? And
Yeah.
giving your power back. I mean, that is truly incredible, Cynthia. I'd say great job on this. This is
Thank
awesome.
you. About having this conversation, especially as we're entering a presidential election, because it's not being talked about, just to bring things full circle to right this moment. We've got, Trump versus Harris. Kennedy's kind of in there now on Trump's team, and they are all focused on a lot of important things, but I haven't really heard much about AI from Trump or Harris. And I think we only have about 2 years to really use this to the benefit of the country in any way that'll be truly, truly transformative. And so for me, that's the most important conversation to have.
Definitely. I've heard, well, Kamala was apparently in charge of AI something. And what I remember from that is her telling us that AI was 2 letters, right? Oh my God. I can't even, let me stop really quickly. But I do feel like there's a point there when Trump was talking a bit more about technology. And not to say that Trump is truly educated on all these things, but his talking points and being able to convey and understand maybe things such as crypto really
Mhm.
says that there's someone behind him that knows. And so we need to know who that person is, and maybe other people do. If you do, just drop it in the comments below and be like, oh yeah, that's Mr. So-and-so telling Trump about it. And Don Jr. is also seems to be pretty in the know. And of course, he's got his father's ear on a lot of things. So
Mhm.
I'm hopeful. And I think with
Oh,
Loud
yeah.
Voice like yours, your book making #1, I mean, this is things that can get attention and really get people thinking, or this could transpire into other awesome thoughts that people will be willing to collaborate on or go out and create their own, right? I think this is such a beautiful thing, Cynthia, and congratulations on #1 for the
Thank
day
you.
the book is released, and that's today. Tell us where we can find your book.
Yeah, yeah, you can find all of my books on Amazon, and well, I'm sorry, I was going to say most of my books are on Barnes and Noble, but they're everywhere. But this particular book, because I was pushing to get it out before the presidential election, is right now on Amazon.
Okay.
So you can find it on there. A New American Dream by Cynthia L. Elliott. It's a New American Dream: Conscious AI for a Future Full of Promise.
Cynthia, before we go, I want to ask, is there anything else that you would like our audience to know about you or your new book?
Two quick things. I am doing a one-woman show performance for the off-Broadway show Raising Hell in Consciousness, which is based on my second book, Memory Mansion. That is in New York City on September 21st at the Caveat Club. Please come hang out. The Caveat is nerd paradise for people who are intelligent and have a sense of humor. And then I'm currently rolling out the first courses for the Soul Tech AI Foundation, which is soultechfoundation.org. I am looking for people to beta test. The courses are ready. We're just fine tuning them, and it teaches fundamentals of AI, and it's really well done. So I need a few people to reach out to me and belly up and be a beta tester for us. It's an hour to 2 hours at most.
Oh, perfect. And I already told you, Cynthia, sign me up. So search no more for beta tester. I'll do me and maybe my 2 daughters. We can get in there. I'll take some notes. I'll give you some feedback. I would love to be part of that. I feel like there's
Love that.
always room to grow, right? There's always
Mhm.
something new to learn. So any call to action for our audience before we go?
Just know that the poison always rises to the surface for healing to take place. And while things can be scary right now, and there is the potential for unhealthy things to happen, the fact is we're going through an extraordinary transformation. It is the most profound transformation in my lifetime. The world is going to be such an exciting and extraordinary place if we can all just come together. Look, it doesn't take all of us. It only takes 3 to 5% for absolute transformation. And just know that that is taking place. Just keep your voices out there, keep people focused, and know that we get the world that we choose. So,
Definitely an awesome message. And I look forward to working with you some more, Cynthia. I really do. Man, I don't know if you got a chance to see. I did a quick episode with Dr. Heath the other day. Was that yesterday? God, the other day felt like 3 days ago. But yesterday morning, I got to do an episode with him, and it's 18 minutes. It was in and out. And I'm like, man, I've been trying this whole time to keep everything under 60 minutes, but I think doing some quick podcast, especially with you, man, you're
Oh,
quick.
we would have
You're a fast
fun.
talker. Yeah, and we could really tackle some topics. So I would love to work with you in the future. My
Yeah.
audience down below, Cynthia's audience down below. What do you guys think? Do you want to see us work together a bit more in the future? Let us know what topics you would like us to cover, and we'll get right on that. Right? We'll definitely try to schedule something. Respecting everyone's time here, I want to say definitely grab Cynthia's new book. I want to thank Cynthia for being on the show, and I want to thank our audience for joining us. If you're watching this live or on the replay, congratulations, you made it to the end. Would you please share this episode with a friend? Okay, I would totally appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And until next time, God bless.